Bulls Nation, the Chicago Bulls made another non-guaranteed contract signing in this last period. And ladies and gentlemen, it is definitely another position, small forward, power forward position that we clearly are looking for with both the 14th and 15th selection of our roster. And it's going to be a very interesting one, and we'll wait and see how this goes. If you don't know who I'm talking about, his name is Tyler Cook. What we're also going to be talking about in today's video is Alize Johnson's role on the Chicago Bulls. Without further ado, let's talk about both of these players in this video. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? It's the Aidan Sports Show, and welcome back to another video. Today we got another Chicago Bulls related video. This one is referring to the new non-guaranteed signing the Chicago Bulls have made, Tyler Cook, and what I think about his game and what it could mean for the Chicago Bulls, as well as the role of Alize Johnson on this team. We all know a backup power forward, but how many minutes is he going to get, and whether or not he deserves to be in that situation at this point in time. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aidan Sports Show YouTube channel. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls signing of the non-guaranteed Tyler Cook or the Alize Johnson role that we'll be discussing later on. Now, Tyler Cook, ladies and gentlemen, last played on the Detroit Pistons. I believe he also played on the Brooklyn Nets this year. And his total averages was 4.9 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, 0.5 assists per game, shooting 67% from the field and 50% from the three-point line. Now, I don't think that 50% from the three-point line is a really serious stat to look into, because I don't believe he took too many three-pointers. This year, he only averaged 0.1 three-point attempts for the Detroit Pistons and the Brooklyn Nets. So pretty much, he was not going to be someone that's going to be banking a whole lot of three-pointers. I think most people would know that about him. But again, that 50% three-point percentage is probably a lie. We're not going to see too many three-pointers from him. He's very similar to a lot of the other players I've talked about. His main, I guess, highlight, his athleticism is very, very good for a player of his size. He's 6'9". And he is someone that, again, has a very good frame, very good body, and he could definitely overpower smaller players in front of him, as well as being able to get to the rim, get some rebounds, play some solid defense. He's that molded player that we've been talking about for a long, long period of time. And again, his last season was on the Detroit Pistons, so not many people would have seen too much about him unless you're a Detroit Pistons fans or you've watched a lot of NBA. But regardless, he's another player that's going to be on a non-guaranteed contract for the Chicago Bulls, and I'm all the more than happy to give this guy an opportunity, as again, we are looking for a lot of players in this positions per se. Again, we have Stanley Johnson, who's a non-guaranteed contract, and now we have Tyler Cook. Many people want more players to come in this field and in this position, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't like this guy's offensive game, to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say this guy's the perfect player for the Chicago Bulls. I think offensively, again, not really a good threat offensively, three-point wise, and I do think he can put himself in a lot of trouble at times. However, it does mean that defensively and athleticism-wise, he is someone that could get an opportunity on the Chicago Bulls. And we'll wait and see if this is the right guy for the Chicago Bulls. Again, this is what the whole point of a non-guaranteed contract is all about. So players can get opportunities and work and see if they can fit the system that we play. And I think Tyler Cook is a player that can do that. I don't know if he's my first choice. I'm not going to lie and say I think this guy should get a guaranteed contract. But this is the opportunity to prove him, me, and a lot of other people wrong, and we'll wait and see if he's the guy that's going to be able to do that. But that's another signing for the Chicago Bulls for a non-guaranteed contract. I'm not sure how many more we have left for the remaining training camp and preseason and whatnot, but we will continue to discuss as more players get announced, and we'll see if the Chicago Bulls have announced any more. Now let's talk about Alize Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. I've talked about him in the last video, the last two videos per se, because he is the new signing, but I didn't make a role video. Usually when I've talked about the new players, I've talked about what their roles are going to be for the Chicago Bulls. Did it with Lonzo, did it with DeRozan, Caruso, Derrick Jones Jr. I've done it with a bunch of players, and Alize Johnson is another one that I'm going to add to the list today. Alize Johnson, we all know, is going to be the backup power forward. This is nothing new. At the most part, which he's pretty much the only guaranteed contract. There is, of course, people have said that there is a time limit in which if he gets waived, he's not going to get guaranteed money. But I sincerely think that's extremely hard to believe. The Chicago Bulls would put him on a 2-year contract just to waive him at a certain time so we don't get the contract. That makes no sense in my opinion. He is going to be a guaranteed player for the Chicago Bulls, and he's the only one at this point out of all the new players we've discussed, from Derek Jones Jr., who is an official player by the way, from Stanley Johnson, Tyler Cook, or Matt Thomas, and everybody else. Vanderbilt, well, we've discussed Vanderbilt, but he's not on the team. Alize Johnson is the only player that is officially a Chicago Bulls player at this point in time. So, what is his role going to be? Backup power forward for sure, but this guy is going to have an incredible opportunity on the Chicago Bulls to further enhance his role from what it was with the Brooklyn Nets and from the Indiana Pacers. But by far, in my opinion, he's going to have the most opportunity on the Chicago Bulls. He is the primary backup power forward for the team, which means those 5 points and 5 rebound games that he's averaging should be increased over the course of the year with the minutes that he's going to be getting. He's going to get roughly 15 to 20 minutes per game, considering we have a Patrick Williams, and he's the main guy off the bench. Marco could potentially be a power forward. Many people see him as a center. And until we get another power forward onto this team, which could be Stanley Johnson, it could be other players, for the most part, this guy's going to be the main power forward, and he's going to get a lot of the bulk of the minutes for the Chicago Bulls off of that bench, which means a bigger role and a bigger production for him. He's going to have a much bigger role, and you should see a lot more of him on the Chicago Bulls than any other team that he's faced before. So I'm expecting a little bit of maybe a double-double here and there from Alize Johnson. I'm expecting the ability to go and dominate some players and dominate some teams with his size, his athleticism, and his ruthlessness on the defensive end. This is the thing that I see with Alize Johnson. The role that he's going to have, it's going to be relatively similar, but we're going to see more of it of the Chicago Bulls. What you see with the Brooklyn Nets, what you saw with the Indiana Pacers, is what you're going to get on the Chicago Bulls, but you're just going to get more of it on the Chicago Bulls because of the more minutes that he is being played. I want to give you an example here. This might have not always been the thing with Alize Johnson, but the Brooklyn Nets had a lot of big men on their team, and that obviously reflected in the minutes that Alize Johnson got compared to other teams that he could potentially get minutes with elsewhere, which is why he decided to move at the end of the day. They had LaMarcus Aldridge, who did retire not too long after he joined the Brooklyn Nets, and welcome back LaMarcus Aldridge. They traded for Blake Griffin. They obviously had DeAndre Jordan as a center option. They had Claxton as a center option. And they had a whole bunch of other players at that power forward position. Jeff Green, another one. So minutes were hard to come by, and that's unfortunate. It is what it is. It's not something that is going to be the end-all be-all for someone like Alize Johnson, but it's very difficult to say that he is going to be someone that's not worth the opportunity, because he just had so many players in front of him in his position that he had to outwork. And a lot of Nets fans, if you talk to Nets fans, really like this guy over some of the other players that they may have kept. So it is unfortunate for the Brooklyn Nets that Alize Johnson is gone from them, but this benefits the Chicago Bulls because we clearly saw something in this player. We clearly have an understanding of what he's going to do on this team, and we could give him enough minutes where he could do what he does at a higher level than what he did with the Brooklyn Nets and what he did with the Indiana Pacers. And there's all potential there, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, potential needs to be fulfilled. He needs to go out there and deliver, and if he does get more minutes and average very similar stats, maybe that's not a bad thing, but it's not what I expect at this point in time. If he's going to get a lot more minutes compared to the Brooklyn Nets games per se with the Chicago Bulls, I'm hoping to see a better production from Alize Johnson as the backup power forward of this team. And I see if he does get a really, really good increase in his stats and his production and his efficiency as well, then ladies and gentlemen, we have got another hidden gem on the Chicago Bulls. This is the potential that he does have, and this is truly what I believe when it comes to Alize Johnson. I'm not trying to be positive every single video, but this is what I see. I've been a fan of this guy since we've been linked with him. I've watched the highlight plays. I've watched some full games about it with him involved, and I just understand that there is a certain type of player that should be on a team. And Alize Johnson is someone you want on your team. It's as simple as that. So hopefully he can get to the level that I've been putting him up to. And if he doesn't, then of course, low risk, high reward. It's a low risk contract. It's a contract that's very cheap for the Chicago Bulls. And if he doesn't deliver, then at the end of the day, it's not like we have overpaid this guy dramatically. So we'll wait and see how that goes. But another really solid deal for the Chicago Bulls, in my opinion. And hopefully the role of being a very similar player on the Brooklyn Nets with a higher minutes to get more production out of him. I think it should be the perfect place to start off with Alize Johnson. And once we get to see him more on a Chicago Bulls uniform, once we get to see a lot more of what he's all about, when we get to see every single game Alize Johnson plays on the team, we can then make more understanding of what his role could be. But that's solely what I believe. A very similar role to the Brooklyn Nets team, just with higher minutes, and we'll see if that is going to be good for him or not. I'm going to end this video here, a little bit of a longer or a shorter video, I should say, but that is all I have to say in relation to this. If there are more signings the Chicago Bulls make, I will be sure to make videos about them. But for the most part now, we're going to be asking some questions about the Chicago Bulls. Like the depth. Is the depth good enough for the Chicago Bulls? Why is it important to have depth? We'll be discussing the team as a whole instead of just individual components. We've talked a lot about should the Bulls sign this player? Should the Bulls sign that player? Now it's time to talk about the Chicago Bulls as a whole, as our roster is beginning to get a little bit more complete every single day. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.